For the first frame, for the introduction, I wanted something that was cohesive. I wanted all the characters to kind of be in one place at the same time, but they're all separate in storylines, so obviously I wasn't going to film them together. So I edited them saying the same line together because that's kind of what ties them together throughout the entire storyline. The lack of evidence, lack of proof, no one believes them. And that's kind of like infringing on the fear that they have, that they talk about throughout the story, and taking it away from the individual and making it a group that's all suffering through certain things. And then as you go to each individual's storyline, you see what separates them, like what part of their situation makes them different. But they all have that underlying, like, I didn't have proof, someone didn't believe me. And for the first guy, it's more of a common situation, one that isn't that scary to think about, but it still hits hard, just like, the physical aspect of it. For the first girl, I wanted more of the more common themes, like bullying and whatnot. Like, we see that everywhere, like, all the time. There's never a situation where someone isn't being bullied in high school. Like, there's always going to be somebody. And I wanted something that would be relatable like that, because there's always going to be a bully and a bullier. Even if it's not as severe in that way, or cyberbullying, or physical bullying. Like, there's different kinds, but there's always going to be somebody. And for the second guy, I wanted someone who was more helpless. I wanted it to be shown that, like, he couldn't control his friend, but he also couldn't control himself. He didn't take the step forward and tell somebody like he should have, and he had to live with that regret, rather than having the pain necessarily inflicted on him by somebody else. He also inflicted on himself. And with the second girl, I wanted to show a lot more severe situation. I wanted something that was on the other end of the spectrum, where it is still somebody who had the pain inflicted on them by somebody else, but in a different sense, so in the physical sense, rather than like the first girl. With the second girl, she's kind of unable to control her father. She can't help her mother, so it makes her feel helpless and stuck. And with the last girl, I wanted to talk about something that, nowadays it's more prevalent, but it's never really covered. No one wants to talk about the fact that, teens are depressed, and their suicide rates are at a pretty darn high. It's not something that anyone wants to look at and say, like, yeah, like, I see that. Like, my child is going through that, or my friend is going through that. I'm going through that. It's not a fun thing to talk about, and it's not something that anyone necessarily is proud of. It's kind of taboo, because you have a lot of people who think that teenagers can't be depressed, and that they shouldn't be, that they have nothing to worry about, their problems aren't enough. And I wanted to incorporate that, but not just from the sense of the girl who's depressed, because there's only so much you can say about that. But I wanted someone who understood her and was there for her and supported her, and I wanted to show that, real life doesn't have happy endings, fairy tale endings, but there are people who care, and they will be there for you. Not everything is hopeless. There's always some sort of light there, because, my whole thing about this entire piece is I want it to be reflective of real life, and it is, but I also cannot do that with just the harsh realities. I wanted a little bit of hope put in there. That's why you have these sad storylines, and then you have this one girl who didn't quite go through these things herself, but she helped someone. She saved her sister. And that was really important to me, because it talked about the topic that I wanted covered, but it also gave a sense of hope.